Welcome, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. This meeting of online presenters is now begun. Guests, please note that in order to become a member of our club, you must be a current or a former active member of Toastmasters International and have completed at least 6 Toastmasters official speeches. If you have substantial presentation experience, you may apply for membership after demonstrating your abilities with a 2 to 3 minute speech delivered during one of our club meetings. Our requests for membership are subject to approval by the members of the club. If you have not already done so, please change your panel to ensure it shows your name and role if you have one. Simply click and select rename in order to do so. Remember, we have members and guests from many countries throughout the world. Thus, as a professional organization, we ask that you please be aware of your language and word usage so that you won't be offensive or otherwise insensitive due to cultural differences. Please note, we are recording the meeting and your video as well as audio may be used for club marketing purposes. Also, please mute your microphone when you are not speaking. And it is my pleasure to turn this meeting over to our club president, DTM Lou Brown.
Thank you, Madam Sergeant at Arms. Welcome, fellow online presenters, other Toastmasters who may be joining us today, and our special guest, Diana Bacon. Thank you again for being here. We have a pretty full agenda from what I have seen, so we're gonna get things off to a start right away. We have a couple of items to cover just before we get into the main aspect of the meeting. I'm going to turn things over to our Vice President of Education, who has a very special message to share with us. First, Andy.
There are many special things to share with you, amongst which we achieved the special notoriety of having 5 members in a period, and that means we had a Beat the Clock award that allows us to buy stuff from Toastmasters at 10% off. But we've also had a number of individuals that have achievements, and we've recognized those achievements along the way. And I want you guys to recognize that we have a lot of people that are finishing off level 4s and level 5s, and I think that's fantastic. We need some more people who are starting up again with level 1s, 2, and 3s, and then we will finish our 6 points in the educational sphere, and then we'll move forward with the other qualifications as well. We also have a voting on a new member, and is Petra here?
Actually, Andy, let me take that one. Just finish up with the educational items, please.
Okay. That's all I have for right now. As some of you may have been aware, I've been away for the last 9 days at a medical meeting in Boston. And so I'm just recuperating from that. And when I mean recuperating, our meetings go from like 6 o'clock in the morning to midnight and beyond each day. So after 7 days, I completely blasted. And then I came back, and today I donated blood, so I'm a little bit wiped out. Lou, fill in whatever else I forgot.
Thank you, sir. No, I know exactly what you mean. Whenever I give blood to, I'm like, boy, I need 4 of those cookies. One doesn't cut it. Okay, I'm not sure if you mentioned it. I was taking some notes. I apologize if you did, but we do have a member who completed a path. Did you mention who that member is?
Is that Antoinette?
No, our Sergeant at Arms, Angela Heath.
Ah.
Antoinette may have as well. I know Antoinette's finishing up paths left and right, so she may have completed one too, but I just saw the email today, Angela, that you have completed a path. Congratulations, ma'am. Well done. Woohoo. Okay, and I'm sure our VPE will have some more additional items near the end of the meeting, including the all-important Let's Fill Roles for our next meeting. But for now, we will may have a short business session. I have to first ask our secretary if we have a quorum in order to conduct club business.
Yes, Mr. President, we need a minimum of 15 people. We do have a quorum as we have, by my count, 20 members here.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. Okay, we have received a request for membership from a guest who has joined us 2 times, maybe 3 times in the past. Her name is Petra. I apologize, I can't remember Petra's last name, but our VPM, Marianne Grady, is going to share a little bit of information about Petra, and then we are going to conduct the vote. Please take it away, Madam Vice President Membership.
Good evening, everyone. As Vice President of Membership, one of our favorite things to do is to add new members. So I'm going to let you know what the qualifications are, and I will ask you all to send me a private chat message, whether or not yes or no, whether or not you would like to accept Petra. So she is a DTM, a Toastmaster for 20 years. She won the District 51 Table Topics contest. She was the first female DTM in Thailand, 3 times District International Speech Contest finalist, conference speaker in more than 10 countries, 2016 Presidential Citation Award recipient, and she is a professional trainer. So at this time, would you please consider those qualifications and send your vote to me? So either yes, we would like to have her as a member, or no, you would not.
I think Rick actually prepared a ballot, a digital ballot, if we want to use that. It's up
No,
to
they're
you.
already coming in. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right, that's fine.
Okay, thank you, Madam VPM. And yes, feel free to, or please do send Marianne your votes. And Marianne, feel free to chime in at any, well, I'm not going to say at any moment, but feel free to let us know in the chat if you still need some more votes. We certainly have to meet the minimum number in the spirit of the quorum. Okay, with that said, we are going to turn things right over to our Toastmaster of the day. Toastmaster, our elder statesman, as he likes to be called, or AKA Turtle. Toastmaster Marty Sandler, take it away, sir.
Well, thank you, everybody. And I will take it away. I'm picking it up and I'm going, throw it over my shoulder because we're going to have some fun tonight. Well, I understand it. We have at least 3 speakers. I hope that's correct. And since I have no idea who speaker number 1 is, I would ask whether speaker number 1 would care to reveal himself or herself. Is speaker number 1 here?
Lieceng.
Yes, I'm a speaker number 1. I just have some issues with my computer.
Yeah.
Okay. If I mispronounced your name, please pardon me and correct it. Lieceng Zhu.
Yeah, it's approximately correct.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to introduce speaker number 1, Lieceng Zhu. Take it away, Lieceng.
Lieceng, which is my name, and it's not common, it's not unique, and many Chinese people think it was kind of weird, but it's unique. And if you Google my name, however, use what format, Chinese, English, or first name first, last name first, you will always just find me. So that's how unique my name is. And at a certain point of time, because the weirdness of my name, I have considered to change my name into something else. And one opportunity comes right before I went to college. That was a life turning point in my life, especially during that time. Going to college in China was a huge deal, a significant event. That means my status will change from maybe the bottom, which is in the countryside, and then to who knows where. So that is when many folks, young girls, boys from countryside, change their name to something more fashionable, more intelligent, and more cityish. And I was no exception. I still remember 19-year-old me. Standing in that turning point of my life, ambitious, full with vanity, thinking of a good name to match my new status and new prospect of my life. And then suddenly I came to a realization, wow, I could become famous. And someday my name may be printed out in the front page of the newspapers. And if I change my name, my friends in the village who I left behind, they probably not recognize that famous person would be their friend, me. So I just kept my name. And from then, so many years have passed. Have I become famous? Yes, I am famous. If we consider alternative fact as a fact. But hey, really, I don't care if I'm famous or not. Really, I enjoy being ordinary. But hey, being ordinary folks, we have our own challenge. One of the challenge is we always have to try to fit in. That is no easy task for me, especially with my background from a distant country, come from a completely different language, social system. The first thing I try to do is to give myself an English name so that folks in this country, they can pronounce my name and in the hoping they could remember me. I thought of Lisa, Leslie, Liz, but none of them impressed me that much because there are just way too many Lisa, Leslie, Liz. The one day a graduate student says, hey, can I call you Lie? The Lie was the sound of the first character of my first name. I said, oh, okay, why not? It's kept the uniqueness of my name and also is something easier for them. But then, wait a second, Lie, that's spelled as L-I-E. And L-I-E is, in English, is lie. No way, I didn't want to be called a lie. And from then on, I just gave up the idea of changing my name. Why just start to answer everything people call me? Lieceng, 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 or license, whatever. But at some point, I feel like my name being screwed up so badly to the point that I don't know how to call myself anymore. Then one day I just thought, hey, why not I just screwed it up even further? And I give myself a name that maybe not conventional, but using a word at least makes sense to myself. Then what that word can be. Then, hey, listen, that's a word first come out of my head. See, listen, at least have a good meaning. It sounds like Lieceng, 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 or at least not worse than that. And it has a great meaning. To listen is to understand and to connect. And to listen and is what I needed to, because I feel always I talk too much whenever I can. And to listen is important, especially in our world, in today's world, when it becomes so noisy and when everybody try to make our own voice heard, but not many want to listen. Therefore, I call myself from now on Lieceng. That's my new name, Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, ma'am.
Marty, just to interrupt for a moment. Normally, we introduce each of your helpers during the segment before the speakers. So if you wanted to introduce the people that are doing the roles for odd counter, grammarian, watcher, chat monitor, and vote counter, that would be appreciated. And we'll go on to our second speaker.
That is wonderful, and that way I'll find out what I forgot to arrange. So, with your permission, everybody, we will adjust the order in which we do things, and we will now introduce some of the people who will make this meeting run smoothly. I will start, since I'm staring at it right now, with our timer. Mr. Timer, David Carr.
Yes, I will show timing lights in my background. I'm going with a Van Gogh theme today. And so you will see the green fields, the yellow sunflowers, and the red poppies at the appropriate intervals. I timed Lieceng for 46 minutes. I believe that was an icebreaker she was doing. And the other two speeches, from my understanding, are 5 to 7 minutes. So the speakers will see green at 5, yellow at 6, red at 7. With a 30-minute buffer to wrap up.
Mr. Timer, my timing is 4 to 6 minutes. This is Angela.
You're also doing 4 to 6? Okay, sure. Very good.
No, it's 3. I'm sorry, it's 3 to 4.
3 to 4?
3 to 4, I'm sorry.
Okay. All right.
No, what can we do with all that extra time?
There we go.
More table topics.
There we go.
That is correct, but I will toss in one item that may amuse all of you, since we've heard one story about a name change. I've also changed my name some time ago for reasons that I'll get into sometime in a prepared speech. My parents named me James Martin Sandler. And why, I'll never know. Well, I do know, but I'll tell you about it when the time comes. However, I did have this problem that I grew up being called Marty for reasons that, again, I'll talk about sometime. But I want to point out that I found it necessary to legally change my name to get rid of the James, because California, when I lived out there, whoever I was dealing with would not allow anything but the legal name. Well, I got tired of phone calls. Went like this: "Oh, you're James Sandler. What do you do? And can you tell me how to reach Marty Sandler?" And by the time I had that half a dozen times, I got sick and tired of it. And I changed my name to Marty Sandler with the permission of my brothers and the other people who might care about the historical reason for my name. And on that basis, I think it's time that we got rolling, but what I don't know is who speaker number 2 is. Can somebody help me on that point?
Marty, we still have some other roles to go through. I sent you the list in the chat.
Oh, right, thank you.
Grammarian,
So just look in your
watcher,
chat, just look in the chat and you're going to see every name with their role. Bing, bam, boom. You'll see it right in the chat, sir.
Grammarian's the next role, Marty.
Okay, let's hear from our grammarian.
Hi, everybody. Marianne Grady here. I'm your grammarian for the evening. It is my job to look for poor English language use, grammatical gems, and outstanding vocabulary and use of the word of the day, which today is logophile, means a lover of words. Back to you, Marty.
Well, thank you, madam. Okay.
Next, Marty is the watcher.
Pardon?
The next role is the watcher.
Okay, who is our watcher today?
Dr. Hall.
Hello, everyone. I'm Corinne, and I'm the watcher for today. So my role is to observe and to observe the use of space on camera. And the Lover of Words logo file, we also do that visually. And so to give a feedback at the end, how we use our spatial awareness on camera.
Marty, next one is the chat monitor. It's Latasha Henderson.
Ah,
Hi, I am the chat monitor today, and I'm going to be monitoring our activity in the chat, and I'm looking for fun things, information. But at the end, I will share all the fun stuff that I've learned in the chat or noticed in the chat.
And Marty, the next one is the vote counter, Richard Durling.
okay.
Good evening, everybody. I will be handling the vote counting, and the way we are going to do that this evening is to use a link that I will post in chat that you can click on and vote for best speaker, best evaluator, and best table topics. It will all be totaled up for me, and a great thank you to David Carr for putting this system together. Back to you, Marty.
Many thanks. And what do we have next?
The
April.
R counter, April.
Thank you, Toastmaster. My role as the R counter is to listen for crutch words such as I'm, and so, and you know, among many others. Thus far, the most popular word seems to be and, just a keynote for any future speakers this afternoon or this morning, wherever you may be. These crutch words and filler words undermine our message and distract our audience. So I will listen for these crutch and filler words along with word repeats and false starts. When called upon, I will give my report. Thank you. Back to you, Marty.
Okay. What?
Marty, the second speaker is Andriy Smolenko.
But before you go to Andriy, Marty, Andriy does not appear to be here yet. So I'm prepared to evaluate Andriy when he gets here. Can I suggest you move on to our third speaker, which is Angela Heath? I note that Angela is here, as is Kim, his evaluator. Her evaluator, sorry.
Is that appropriate for you, Angela? Would you care to speak now?
Yes, that's fine.
Take it away.
Fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, death comes. We can't escape it. And it came for my father on March 17th, 3 years ago. You know, the earliest memory of my dad, I was sitting on his lap as a little tyke, and I was beating his stomach like a drum. When I grew up, I found out his stomach actually wasn't very big after all. The imagination of a young girl. But I wanted to share two things that my father taught me, because I think these two things will give you some insight into the kind of man he was. And this is not from that little girl. This is from an adult who knew him well. Fathers take care of their children. My father was a great dad, a great provider. For years, he worked 2 jobs in order to take care of his family. He used to leave for work very early and return well after dark, but he never complained because he understood that providing for your children is a very serious matter. Second, my dad knew the importance of teaching. He taught us how to have family fun and how to navigate life. I remember when he taught me how to tie my shoes and play cards and also to hit a baseball out of the park. He was so patient. Even when he taught me how to drive, he would very calmly say, "Angela, you only have 1 lane." And he never flinched, even though his life truly was in jeopardy. Now, some of the lessons he taught us, they were a little harsh, some may say, but they were very effective. I remember him telling me and my brother, "Stop climbing on the trees." He must have told us a dozen times, but we just kept climbing. And then one day, the manager of the apartment complex found my brother climbing the tree. He marched my brother right over to my dad and he said, "This boy has been climbing trees and that's a $10 fine." "This is your son, right?" he said. My dad looked right in his eyes and said, "No, he is not." But don't worry. My mom heard the whole conversation and she ran to the rescue of my brother. But you know what? He never climbed those trees ever again. Some of the lessons my dad taught me, I still practice today. Actually, many of the lessons. I never spend everything I make. I always look at the bright side instead of the dark side. And I try to be friendly and kind, even when people are mistreating me. That came from my dad. So I want to end these remarks about my dad the same way I began them. Death comes. We can't escape it. We don't know when, we don't know how, we don't know where, but it's coming. It's coming for each of you, and it's coming for me. Here's the challenge. What are the lessons that you will leave behind for the ones who love you? Back to you, Toastmaster of the Day.
Well, we have now had 2 of our speeches. Looks like we're not going to have a third one as far as I can tell. Is that accurate, folks? Yep. Evaluator 2, thank you, Graham. Sorry, you'll have to evaluate something else sometime. So, having gotten that far, I would think the next thing to do is move into the impromptu section of our, well, wait a minute. Don't we normally allow a minute or so to vote first? So let us, those of us who have not yet voted, please put your vote in the chat. And our vote counter, who I found a minute ago, Rick Durling, will, at the right time, will tell us what he found there. Have I got that right, Rick?
I will be posting a link for the to get the votes. I just need to know if the timing for both speeches was on time. David?
Both speakers were within time, correct? Yes.
All right, here comes the link for voting for best speaker. Please use that. It just works a whole lot better.
It hasn't shown yet, Rick. I don't know if it, there it is.
Marty, would you like to introduce our topics master?
It will be my pleasure. And I even, if I am correct here, I even know who that is. Master is a lady whose last name I don't know, Carolina or Carolina, which is it?
Carolina, thank you, Marty. Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters again. Today, in this section, I would like to invite you to use your imagination to answer the questions. And here it goes. Imagine that you have a product and you have to sell it. What could be your pitch for that product? This question goes for Lucas.
Thank you for that question. In order for me to pitch a product appropriately, I need to know what the customer values, what is their price point, and do they have any use for it? So I would really need to look at all those three different aspects, and I think that would give me at least a good chance of selling them the product. At the end of the day, they will have that choice to make for themselves. But I think if I
would you like me to give you a clue or something to pitch your product?
I'm not even sure what the question
Imagine
was.
that this is a product for children.
Oh, I didn't hear that part.
No, I didn't say that.
Oh.
Because I was expecting to use your imagination.
Ah, okay. Okay. So, okay. All right. The device that I'm going to use is, or that I'm going to pitch is a book, let's say. And that particular book will generate stories. So the book is blank on its cover. But what it does is that it's an electronic, it's like a Kindle. So the cover looks like an actual book. And every day, new stories will populate based on one's interests. So it is all age appropriate. So if it's for a kid, different stories will populate. Adults can use it in different stories will populate. But every day they can get something new, but it still has that classic book cover. But when they open it up, you have an electronic format interface that you can interact with. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Lucas. I love your product. Next question. Imagine that you have to do the opposite that you do in your daily life for 48 hours. What would you do? What would your life look like? And this question goes for Hector.
Thank you for that very interesting question, Madam Table Topics Master. What if I had to do the exact opposite of what I do every day? How will my life be different? Well, first of all, I sit all day long. So I work remotely from my home. So the very opposite that I would be walking, all day walking. What kind of job could I do if I was on the street? Maybe I would be a street vendor, like the ones in my hometown in Mexico that went from time and part of the Times Square to different parks, selling their products. I don't know if that would be completely different because I will still be selling a product, maybe a service. Maybe I provide a service to the people passing by on the parks. Now, I speak all day long in my work. So if I speak as I'm providing this service, maybe I'm not doing the exact opposite. So if I think about it, I could be walking all day, going to different parks. I'm providing a service to my fellow men by not speaking at all. Maybe I will be a mime. And instead of making my customers cry with all the problems that are dealing with my product, I make them laugh. That will be a real change in my life that I could really, really enjoy, Madam Table Topics Master. Thank you for the question.
Thank you very much, Hector. That sounds a very fun life. Next question. Imagine that you can spend a silly amount of money on one thing. What would you buy and why? And this question goes for Nick.
Well, as it happens, I actually bought it yesterday. That's why I've got this big smile on my face. And look, here it is. What this does, it's a personal organizing gizmo that gives you the power to be anything you want to be, wherever you want to be. Now, how does it work? I hear you ask. It's very simple. The key to this particular device is that it enables you to focus and to fly using your imagination. With this particular item, I can put it on and I become a different man. Yes, I come out of my physical being, I sit up, I actually fly up to the ceiling, look down upon myself in this meeting right now, and I can float away wherever I want to be. Are you interested? Do you want to take a look? No? Okay. Are you interested? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All
Yes.
right. Oh, well, then I'm going to give you a dry run. Okay. Now it's really important. Don't tell anybody. Okay. Keep it between you and me. All right. Okay, Carolina. We're going
Okay.
to open this up and look, it's got the magic light. That means we are go green for go. I can put this little gizmo and this little gizmo. I throw that away. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in my ear. And I'm going to put this in my other ear. And now I can't hear anything outside of me. I can't hear anything apart from the music. I can't hear you telling me that it's time's up. I can't hear David saying the red light is on. And I can't hear my wife telling me it's time to wash up. Wouldn't you want one of these? Back to you, Caroline.
Yes. Thank you, Nick. I want that. Next question. This is going to be more dramatic. What are the worst things that could happen? And could you get back where you are today? This is a hard question, but I know that you can do it. And this question goes for Pamela.
What if the worst thing happened and could I get back from it?
Yes, to where you are today.
That is a hard question. I think the hardest thing that could happen was to lose somebody that you really love. And I think that forever changes you. It's a challenge to start living again. My brother was diagnosed with childhood leukemia just after a 6-year-old birthday. At that time, they didn't know much about it, or they didn't know as much as they do now. It was 1976. We went through, my family and I, we went through 10 years of chemotherapy with my brother. Most of the time he was well. He was only in the hospital maybe once a year for a couple months. And it didn't really seem like he was sick. So when you ask me what's one of the worst things that could happen, probably one of the worst things that could happen is to lose someone who is younger than you and someone you grew up with. It was really hard to get past that. It was really hard to see things differently. I honor his memory by living my life as fully as I can and by loving other people as much as I can. Will I ever be the same? I don't think I'll ever be the same. I don't think those things will ever make you the same happy-go-lucky person. But I think you live a deeper and richer life when those different things happen. So when the worst things happen, it might not seem that the sun will ever come out tomorrow. you'd start to see things differently, and you start to reframe what you see as success and what you care about. And life does get better. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pamela. Thanks for sharing your story with us. Next question. If you could only work 2 hours per week on your business, what would you do? What specific things would you choose to work on? And this question goes for our guest, Diana.
I didn't quite catch the whole thing, but I think you said if you only had a certain number of hours
2 hours,
to work, 2 hours to work
per week
on a week, 2 hours a week?
Yes.
On the business, what would you do?
Yes, in those 2 hours.
I would choose to speak with my clients and focus on solving their problems. And because that's how I earn money as well. So it's a win-win situation. I'm helping my clients, but I would focus on my clients. I would contact them and I would spend more time just having the conversations with them, just checking in, see how they're doing. Sometimes I wouldn't be making necessarily money that for each conversation, but I would be providing value-added services to them. And I think that's critical, is to spend time nurturing those relationships that we make in our business relationships that we develop. And because a lot of businesses gain more clients through word of mouth. So if you serve the clients you have and continue to treat them well, then you're more likely to continue to receive more clients. So it would be a jam-packed 2 hours trying to achieve. In order to achieve everything in those 2 hours, I think there's also needs to be some planning going into it, reflecting on the end of the 2 hours and plan for the next day in order to stay on top of being productive within the 2 hours.
Thank you very much, Diana. Do I have time for one more question, or do we need?
If I may, Carolina, I noticed that Andriy is here now.
Yes,
and
here.
if he's going to give his speech and me give the evaluation, we'd really need to move on now.
Okay. Please, David, can you give us the timing for the speakers?
Well, I will post them in the chat, but everybody was within time.
Okay. Thank you very much for your answers, and I hope you enjoyed the section. And Marty, back to you.
Thank you very much. And I really enjoyed those topics. It looks to me, did I understand that we are now going to be lucky enough to hear what was planned in speech number 2, but didn't happen because the speaker wasn't here at the time? Is that accurate, folks?
Yes. If you'd like, I can introduce Andriy, since I have his introduction in front of me.
That would be perfect. Thank you very much. Take
Thank
it
you,
away.
Toastmaster. The speech tonight is going to be given by Andriy, and this is from the Innovative Planning Level 2, Learning Your Style. It's the Introduction to Mentoring speech, and it's called What's in It for Me? This is the story about Vaclav, the fat boy, and the Bacta dancer. Ladies and gentlemen, Andriy Smalenko.
What do you think is the most important question you need to ask yourself when you are faced with decision to do or not to do, to take a mentee on board or not to take? Of course, is what's in it for me? It's the fundamental question that we all should ask. As Simon Sinek, in his famous book about Big Why, He is organizational psychologist. He knows a thing or two about psychology. Ask. So why would you want to take on board a mentee and share your knowledge and experience with them? This question I asked myself about 3 years ago. Well, 3 years ago, I was newly qualified, competent communicator. Of course, I've done my 10 speeches in my local club called Deedsbury Speakers, just on outskirts of Manchester. I was really proud of myself, and I can see many of you can relate to that feeling. Your first badge, first achievement award, I was on the height. And then I was introduced to this guy. His name is Václav. He's from Czech Republic. He just joined the club, and he was complete different version of me, complete opposite. No confidence, could barely speak English, and he was asking those silly questions that I was asking when I started with the club. And one of the club presidents, the committee, came up to me and said, "Hey, well, Andriy, this is your guy." I look at Václav and I just somehow remember it myself. I just didn't want to become his mentor. I was right up there in my own mind, and he was just somewhere else. I was just so carried away with my own pride that I didn't see that this guy, it was me. He needed help. I didn't want to give it to him. That's a story with Václav. On one day, one rainy day, I just clearly remember that. You know, we all finish our all flamboyant and all happy evening. Speeches done, everything done, raining, horrible weather. We all had our cup of tea, get out of our place. I was just about to get into my car when I saw Václav in his skinny gear, just getting on his bike, push bike, and pedaling somewhere away. I asked one of the guys, so why is he not taking the car? I said, for months, he's been coming on his push bike to our club and learning, taking notes. He clearly, to me, wanted to learn. Václav really, really wanted to learn. And then when I stood there in the drenching rain, seeing that guy driving away, I remembered a story about myself. 13, I was fat, I was sweaty, with wrinkles all over my face. I stood like that in a corner, like this fat guy, waiting for my turn to dance at the school disco party. And the girls at that time, all beautiful on high heels, were walking around smelling nice, and me there, just in the corner. And when I tried to dance, when I tried to approach one girl, she just turned me down. When I tried to approach another girl, she turned me down as well. And I thought, look, what's wrong with me? I just want to dance. I need a mentor, someone. Of course, those girls knew that what's in it for them, it wasn't me. It was something else they were after. So thinking about me and Václav, you know, I became his mentor. And this me and him together, you can see we do look like the same. I helped him for a number of years now. He did complete his Competent Communicator manual. He did start making changes in his life. His English improved. He found a job as a male nurse in one of the hospitals in Manchester. He got married and they have a baby girl now. And it all happened through our relationship with Václav. So the question I'm asking, what's really in it for me? In my view, that relationship between the mentor and mentee is mutual. It can only work properly when at certain points in life, mentor becomes mentee and mentee becomes a mentor. This is exactly what happened between me and Vaclav. About a year ago, I was going through a really, really difficult time in my life. I split up with my ex-girlfriend. She was beautiful. She was really in love. So I was, but unfortunately we decided to take a break and I was down below. I was all wet and miserable and cold. And I share my story with Vaclav. I said, look, this is what happened. And what he did, he turned the table around. He introduced me to bachata, is Latino American dance. For those who doesn't know Latino American dance very well, you probably heard about salsa. Nice and dancing, groovy, and so on. Bachata is a slower, much more mellow version of that dance, very intimate, if you like. Those people dance bachata behind my back. Vaclav took me to his dance school, said, Andriy, you got to dance. He found 3 girls for me to dance with, even if I couldn't move. I didn't know anything about bachata at all. And then he encouraged me to take bachata classes. And here we go, about on and off, about 6-7 months, I can dance bachata more or less confidently. You see, in those 3 stories, and it's a big question, what's in it for me? About Vaclav, about a fat boy, and about the bachata dancer. The one thing, just one thing I want you to take out of my speech. So when next time in your life, you are faced with decision, what to do, you do ask yourself a question, what's in it for you? At the same time, I challenge you to dig deeper, much deeper inside of yourself. And I can promise you the rewards will be handsome. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster of the evening.
Marty, I don't think your microphone is on.
Well, I think my microphone is on at the moment, yes.
Is now.
Says here.
It worked for a moment, but now it's stopped again. Hang on.
Well, let's see.
Now it's working.
Yeah. I could write a book on how to really do a lousy job as Toastmaster of the Day. Maybe I should try that as a speech if we can figure out where it fits. Okay, we have now had 3 speeches and we have not had an evaluation of our last speech yet. Do we have an evaluator available?
Actually, Marty, we can start the entire evaluation section now. All 3 evaluators need to evaluate all 3 speakers.
Okay, the time has come. Thank you for helping get things wherever they go.
Anytime.
It's now time to turn this over to our general evaluator, who is
me.
Lou Brown.
Thank you, sir. Yes, our general evaluation segment.
Many thanks, Lou.
You're very welcome, Mr. Sandler. Love your background, by the way. You are a man with a heart of gold. At least I think that's gold. My eyes, sometimes I'm colorblind. Anyway, this is our evaluation segment where we hear feedback on our speakers in the form of 3 prepared evaluations. Our first evaluator, and I think this is where I may need a little help, Mr. Barber, evaluator number 1, who will be evaluating, and now my memory, I'm having a brain freeze. Who was our first speaker?
Lieceng.
Oh, Lieceng, that's right. Beautiful name, Lieceng. Okay, very well. Very good. Mr. Barber will be evaluating Lieceng's speech. Take it away, Mr. Barber.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. My fellow Toastmasters, our most welcome guests this evening, and of course, especially Lieceng Zhu. Lieceng, this was an icebreaker in the engaging humor path. And you're obviously an accomplished speaker, so I can't evaluate your icebreaker in terms of giving your first speech and that sort of thing. You are accomplished. I will address briefly the content. Most icebreakers are rather chronological in nature, telling you when I was born, where I was born, and taking through my life. You took a different approach, and I liked this. You talked about your struggle, about how to identify yourself. What name should you use when you are dealing with other people? And that was a brilliant approach, I think, to doing an icebreaker. But let me talk about the speech itself. First of all, your delivery. Your delivery was top notch. Your pace, your diction, your vocabulary, you had effective and congruent gestures. Everything about your presentation skills were top notch. They were great. Let's talk about video. And this was pretty much top notch as well, but I have one small suggestion for you. But before I do that, let me talk about your video presence. You have a very professional video presence. That was great. You looked comfortable on the screen. That is very good. I liked your blurred background. It was there. It wasn't distracting though. Very well done. I liked that. You were centered in the screen. Effective use of the space. That was very good, except for one little thing. I was going to suggest that your gestures, although they were effective and congruent, they were a little low. They were down here. And I was going to say, raise them up a little bit. But actually, that's not the problem. Let's see if I can pull it up here. This is what we saw. And actually, I would suggest changing your camera angle a little bit so that you become a little bit closer to the top of the screen. That was wasted space by having it down there. Change your camera angle a little bit so that the top of your head is almost at the top of the screen, and it'll make a better, an improved video presentation. But this was an effective presentation. This was on target. You did a great job, and I am really looking forward to your next presentation. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Barber. Appreciate that. Now, because we had the speakers we shifted up. Oh, I was going to say to give you a little bit more time. Sounds like you don't need it. There you go, folks. A veteran evaluator, our role model, Mr. Graham Carnes. Okay, Ms. Carnes, who will be evaluating Andriy Smalenko. Take it away, sir.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, Toastmasters, most welcome guests, and particularly, of course, Andriy. The introduction to mentoring speech is, as we've probably all observed, something that has to happen in every path for every speaker, and it can, quite frankly, be as dull as dishwater. But tonight we saw a really good example of how to use the Introduction to Mentoring project to learn something about yourself as well as about the mentoring process. The story of Vaclav, the fat boy, and the Bashata or Bakhta dancer, depending on how you pronounce that particular form of dancing. I can't dance, so it doesn't matter to me. In this, Andriy did something I think that was particularly effective. We know that Andriy is a CC, a competent communicator in the old manuals. And we know that because we could tell it from the way that he spoke tonight. The gestures, the images and the use of images behind him, the vocal variety, they were all really good examples of how to give a presentation. This would have been a great presentation in a face-to-face environment, but in this environment, in the online environment, it was using the technology to its nth degree. At first, I was going to comment on the fact that Andrei's shirt disappeared with the white background, but then as the rest of the images changed, it became really effective. The structure of this was effective, and the stories. Here's the most important part for me. The stories were perfectly pitched at this audience. And that's something that we need to look at when we are speaking. Telling stories is great, but making sure that those stories hit home to the audience. One of the things that I loved about this particular presentation was the call to action at the end. I would, however, say that I felt it was a little transparent. I could see what the call to action was going to be. It was telegraphed as we were heading toward it. I'd like a little more fleshing out, for example, to show why what's in it for me is not just about immediate benefits, but showing how you and your protege can, if you like, synergize a real win-win situation by working together. So how to do this? The challenge I would give Andriy is to consider the use of pauses. For example, a 5-second pause for thought when Vaclav got on his bike. So I saw Vaclav getting on his bike and riding away. It was at that point that I realized how much he was putting into this and how much I was not. Or a 5-second pause for thought when you were rejected by the girls. They didn't want to dance with me. All I wanted was to dance, and they didn't see anything in it for them. And that's when I started to think about what's in it for me. So those pauses would be effective to make us follow you along. When your life was falling in the pit and then Vaclav rescued you, just a little extra pausing there. You had the time, and it would focus our attention back on you. But again, I have to commend Andriy on one of the best examples of introduction to mentoring that I have seen delivered. I want now to get out and assist some of my mentors or some of my proteges, and in fact, assist some of my mentors, because that's the big lesson, that we learn both ways. Thank you for your presentation, and thank you for getting here a little late, but getting here anyway. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Cairns. Last but certainly not least, we have Toastmaster Lieceng, who will be evaluating Toastmaster Heath.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, dear guests, and especially Angela Heath. The speech was Death Comes. This was a level 3 speech from the Visionary Communication Path. I loved Angela's speech for so many reasons. It was like watching a masterclass regarding how to prepare and make a speech. This made my job as an evaluator both very easy and very hard. It's very easy to point out the strengths, but it's very difficult to suggest improvements. In chatting with her beforehand, Angela indicated that she wanted to work on trying to slow down and be more calm. She also said that she is always working on her eye contact. Congratulations to Angela. She achieved both of her goals. Also, Angela is most definitely a logophile. First of all, I loved the structure of the speech. Angela introduced her speech by sharing the date when her dad passed away. This grabbed our attention. She then said that she was going to tell us 2 things that her father taught her, which drew us in. Then she shared with us what she learned from her dad, which added value. Finally, Angela summarized her thoughts about death. There was a clear beginning, middle, and end. What that did is to make the speech easy to follow. Because Angela intertwined each of those parts with the theme of death comes, it made it a unique approach to an often uncomfortable topic. Secondly, I loved how Angela used eye contact and body language to express emotions. Notice, as she gets retrospective about her dad in her speech, she begins to get a very serious look on her face. She begins to lose a smile on her face. You could see in her whole body how upset she is. That is important to do when you're trying to express emotions in a speech. Let me get I'm so sorry, my notes. And I am so sorry. I loved Angela's voice. It was loud. It was proud when it needed to be. It was quiet and soft-spoken when she expressed sadness. Her impressive use of vocal variety really helped to draw us into her speech and really feel the gravity of her story. This was especially evident when she said her dad looked a man right in his eyes. No, he's not my son. And she got closer to the camera and spoke really softly. It was softly and definitely. When she described the story of her dad teaching her to drive, her whole face lit up. I love Angela's infectious smile. I found myself smiling right back at her as she spoke. I felt that Angela was talking directly to me. It made me feel special when she looked and spoke directly to the camera. What I liked most of all was the value that Angela's speech provided. The knowledge she shared about her dad, providing for her children, don't overspend, look at the bright side, and be friendlier are suggestions that everyone can use, not just with their children, but for life in general. So it's clear that Angela knows her audience very well. In terms of improvements, I have 2 suggestions. In the past, Angela has given her speeches while standing. I feel that Angela uses her entire body with her gestures more when she's standing. So although her body language was excellent during the speech, I feel it might have been even better if she was standing rather than sitting. My second suggestion is to try not to look down as often as I am right now. I'm not sure whether or not Angela was reading notes. I actually don't think that she was. I feel that Angela looked down when the subject was more uncomfortable, and it only happened for about the first 30 seconds. Overall, this was a scintillating speech. I love the structure, the gestures, vocal variety, the value, and especially the ease with which Angela speaks. Even though this was a tough topic, I found myself not wanting her speech to end. I wanted to hear more. I recommend to try standing when she speaks and to be mindful when looking down, and mainly just to keep doing what she's doing. I have to say it's been an absolute pleasure hearing Angela share memories about her father tonight. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator Lou.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Lieceng. Appreciate that very thorough evaluation. Okay, and that concludes the section where our evaluators give their feedback. Mr. Timer, did all of our evaluators qualify?
Actually, they didn't. Our first evaluator, Jim Barber, spoke within time. Everybody else went a little bit over, but every minute of it was worth it.
Okay, please send your vote for Jim to Rick Durley, our vote counter. Okay, now I am a logophile. I love words, but I am more of a speechophile. I love speeches. And with that said, I am going to ask everyone to please vote again for Best Speaker since Toastmaster Sorry, Andriy, sometimes I just can't get your last name off my lips that easily. Smalenko, I have to slow it down. Toastmaster Smalenko graciously showed up for his speech. So please resend your votes to Toastmaster Durling. I don't think he'll be posting a link. So please private message him your vote for Best Speaker. And by the way, I think he did qualify. Is that correct, Mr. Timer?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So please send your vote again there. Now, we are going to go quickly through our reports, after which I will add a little bit of my own feedback on the meeting. Let's begin with Grammarian Marianne Grady.
Good evening, everybody. I'm just going to run quickly through this. Lieceng, you said came from a different language social system, and I think you meant spoke a different language and came from a different social system. Lieceng, I liked how you made that combination of listening to listen. I thought that was a nice touch. Angela, life in jeopardy, lessons harsh but effective. Death comes and we can't escape it. And I liked your, at the end, what are the lessons? It really was a very thoughtful ending to your speech. Andriy, carried away with my own pride, drenching rain. You did say 13 I was instead of I was 13. I thought that could have been different. Rewards will be handsome. Jim Barber, struggle to identify yourself. Graham, I'd like to make you aware that you're using the word really a lot.
Really?
I noticed like at least 3 times, and I think maybe more. So just be mindful of that. And, you know, obviously there's plenty of other words you could use in its place. I liked when you said perfectly pitched. Kim, very easy and hard. And you used the word of the day, as did President Liu. Back to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you very much, Grammarian. Now let's move on to our watcher, Dr. Corinne.
Fellow Toastmasters and most welcome guest. So it's a curious thing about watching, because suddenly you start observing a bit more about how does the framing and the background actually contribute to the speech. And today we had some fantastic examples of that. Andriy's backdrop worked incredibly well. Similar comment about the white shirt or the white background in terms of what happens when it disappears, but that was very fast, and for the rest it worked incredibly well. So did Angela in terms of that backdrop contributed to that story, which was quite somber, and as well with Lieceng. So framing, the space between the head and the space within the frame worked incredibly well for commanding the space and delivering. Some other great notables were timer using the Van Gogh background. That worked beautiful. That worked quite well. We also had a lot of autumn or bringing the exterior interior. We had about 6 of our Toastmasters, Marianne, Andriy, Carl. Can I find everyone? Rick brought the external with the backdrop, and that worked almost uniformed. Really also like Jim, how you're framed with the word of the day. So, and I would say with everyone here, it worked quite well in terms of the space. Small tweaks that could be made in terms of, for example, is it intimate? Perhaps coming a bit closer to the camera and a little bit will use in to be seen and to command the space. But outside of that, a fantastic job. And back to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you very much, Dr. Corinne. Appreciate it. Let's move on to our chat monitor. How active was the chat, Dr. Tasha?
We had a pretty active chat. We learned in the chat that tomorrow in Mexico, it's the Day of Death celebration. And it's a celebration in which they remember their loved ones who have passed on. So tomorrow is the Day of Death. There were comments. There was a funny comment that our meeting today was called a pot of mixed vegetables, a good pot of mixed vegetables. I thought that was funny. And a lot of comments around the speakers and giving kudos to speakers.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tasha. Appreciate it. Last but not least, I always like to save it for last, just so we get all of those odds and ums in there, is our counter, April Elizee. How did we do?
Well, thank you, General Evaluator. During today's meeting, the top 3 areas of opportunity I saw in crutch words were and, so, and but. I also uploaded the counter report in the link so everyone can go in and take a look at that. And back to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Yes, I saw that you put the counter report in the chat, so I encourage everyone to go check that out. We have a few minutes left. I'll give a very quick overview myself of the meeting because I'm very interested to hear in how the experience went for our guests. First of all, actually, let me announce real quick that Petra is officially a member of Online Presenters. Woohoo! Petra is not with us this evening, but she'll see this replay. So welcome, Petra. Woohoo! Okay. Let's see, evals went very well. I mean, we are a very advanced club, so nothing that I really can add to our evaluators. As a matter of fact, I feel like I am a protege to these folks because they are such experienced evaluators. I always learn from them. Marty, I know we kind of threw you into the pool and said, Marty, swim, my friend. And I know it was a little tough. We threw at you some of the information on the website. If you take a look at our website in terms of the duties of each role, the Toastmaster role, I think you can scroll maybe 2 or 3 times to see what's involved before the meeting, after the meeting. So there's a lot there. Anyone who hasn't done the role on I'll say a regular kind of frequency, it can be very challenging. I have a suggestion for anyone who does this role as a quick way to remember kind of little pieces there. Use a kind of it's not an acronym because it really does, I can't pronounce it, but ORSTE. ORSTE. You have the opening, announce the roles, announce the speakers, announce the topics masters, and then announce the evaluation people. Kind of helpful. I put that sometimes on my own monitor as a way to remember. Always great to have bullet lists. And again, my friend, you did an amazing job. Again, I know we kind of threw you into the pool there and said swim, but you did a fantastic job. And believe me, with each time, it's just going to get better and better and better. So congratulations, Marty. Thank you, sir, for offering to do the role. Okay, we are just about at the end. Thank you, guests, for hanging with us. We would love to hear from you in terms of what you have gained from the meeting. Please correct me if I pronounce your name wrong. Imtinan?
Yeah, thank you very much, General Evaluator and Toastmaster and the very good fellow Toastmasters. This is not my first participation. I already attended this meeting before, but there's a gap for 1 year because I was busy with my personal job. So now I'm planning to be regular, and I'm what the reason for is that I like this club because the people are all very good and very high level, and I'm also a logophile kind of guy. So I like to listen, put words from the people and how to pronounce them, because definitely English is not my mother language, but you have to learn somewhere, because speaking is not an issue, but how to speak, I mean, it's very important. And I'm also looking forward to join this club, and hopefully I will be my first icebreaker speech with this club, and definitely listening my evaluation from these respectable evaluators. Thank you very much for your time.
Wonderful, thank you, sir. So you are a current Toastmaster, correct?
I was a Toastmaster, not here. I was working in Middle East. I was for 6 months. I joined a Qatar Toastmaster club. Then I left it because I moved to Canada. So now I'm in Canada for like more than 4.5 years. So after, yeah, so from there, so I'm planning to now coming back to my Toastmaster journey.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, our Vice President of Membership, Mary Ann Grady, I'm sure we'll be connecting with you to share with you more information. Okay, wonderful. Okay, our other guests, I'm looking around. Issues. Oh, there you are, Diana Bacon. Diana, please share with us what you gained from our meeting today.
Thank you very much. Well, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed listening and participating. Caught me off guard. I'm having some trouble with my audio or my being able to hear through my speakers. I'll have to update that. But I'm in the world of online presenting. I'm working on transitioning a lot of my in-person training to online. So I'm always looking for ways to improve, and watching, you know, you can learn vicariously through watching others, but you also need that practice. And I think that practice is what I'm looking for as I'm scouting around for permanent online Toastmaster clubs. I've been a Toastmaster for 10 years and I have my DTM. And I know my home club, it's an advanced club. We meet once a month. That's about all the time I have, it seems like. But they're temporarily online. The plan is to move back to in person. But because I moved an hour and a half away from the city where all the Toastmasters clubs are, I need to find a club online. It just makes sense. Traveling in the winter on those icy roads is not fun, or even in the dark, because I have cougars, deer, moose running across the road. It's not really safe to travel. So I'm so thankful that a lot of clubs are online. And when I went to Toastmasters and I scouted down the list of who is online, and so I'm attending a few different clubs that is of interest to me, and and see what journey I go on from there. And I appreciate you allowing me to attend today.
Thank you very much. And thank you for being here. This, like all of the Toastmasters clubs, is a great way to practice. And given that we started it in an online format, what better place to practice an online presentation than here? And as a matter of fact, many of our members have worked with other clubs to create an online environment. And David Carr even has created presentations and worked with other clubs to create a hybrid club situation, which a lot of clubs will be going into pretty soon. I'm in a couple other clubs that are very far away, and the only way I can participate there is in a hybrid situation. Okay, our vote counter. Let's see if we can get the final tally of the votes before we officially slam that gavel.
I've already posted it in chat. Best table topics, Pamela Benjamin, best speaker, Andriy Smolenko, and evaluator, Jim Barber.
Wonderful, thank you, sir. Okay, this concludes today's meeting. I officially bring it to a close, but please stick around because our Vice President Education will be asking about rules for next week. And of course, this is our kind of after hours party.